Equality versus equity. Equality means every child gets a pair of shoes. Equity means every child gets a pair of shoes that fit. That means every school district has to meet every student's individual needs.
I'm Jerry O'Green with the Black Student Advocate. We advocate for black employees and black students within the K through 12 school districts. We hold school districts accountable to make sure that black students and employees are in a fair and equitable workplace.
Good morning. Good morning. First off, happy Father's Day to all the fathers across the world. Today is a very special day. This is a day where we honor the men who actually have had the courage to stand up and man their responsibility, whether they remain with the mother or not. A father is a very critical individual in the life of a child. A father has a very powerful influence to influence that child with a healthy masculine energy, teaching them how to solve problems and the proper way in how to love the woman, the wife, the partner, whatever you want to call it. And today is a day that's typically always been known to be marred and smeared, but we're not here to talk about that. We're not here to talk about anything negative. This morning, we're going to talk about the greatness and the goodness of the father and the impact that a father has on a child's life. I can speak for my very own father, who is a part of this panel today. And my father used to always say something about my own grandfather. He used to tell me, if I could be half the man that his daddy was, that my grandfather was, then his life would be a success. And I would go as far to say the same thing. If I could be half the man that my father is, then my life will be a success. And as a young father, there was a lot of mistakes that I made. There was a lot of things that I probably wouldn't do that I probably wouldn't do today. I made a lot of mistakes and eventually had to go to my children and apologize for some of the mistakes that I made. But I've always embraced and loved being a father. And I tell any man, this is not a part of life that you want to miss, because these years go by fast. I have family members who are younger than me that, I was like, when you going to have kids, when you going to have babies? And they eventually became fathers. And I sit back and I admire how they raise their family. I sit back and see how they parent the children, how they embrace the children, and also make a manly decision, a grown man decision to marry the woman that they make the children with. Now, this is not a knock on anybody, for all you fathers out there that's not married, because this day is about fatherhood. But I have a panel of men that crosses 3 generations, and they're going to talk about the highs. They're going to talk about their lows. They're going to talk about their experiences. They're going to talk about the greatness of being a father. And also, they're going to lend some advice to some of the younger fathers that's coming up through the ranks. And I just want to give a shout out to the women that support fathers on this day. Everybody who give men their flowers. We also want to give you a shout out as well today, too. Before I continue on with the show, I want to just give my review on the Good Guys plays last night that I went down to 7 stages and witnessed with my own cousin, Corey Poe. And let me tell you, if you are in Atlanta today, and if you have the time and availability, if the tickets are still available, men, women, couples, married couples, whatever, I suggest you go purchase a ticket and go watch that production. It talks about how black men have the right and the permission to heal and to recover from a lot of past traumas. Things back in the day in the black community, when it came to men, we didn't believe some of these things existed, but they did. And this play brings out a lot. Last night, there was laughter, there was joy, there was pain. I seen people jerking tears. I seen couples embracing each other. And I myself, as an observer, I was pretty much impacted and touched by the play as well. And it's good to see that society is finally moving into the spectrum of honoring men and allowing men to heal. If you haven't seen it, the play is called Good Guys. And this is the production right here, man. And I think they're trying to shoot it into a movie. There was a lot of important people there last night, and I'm pretty sure that they impressed everybody that was in attendance. Hey, I wish the writers and the producers of the show well. That Miss Kathy, that's don't nobody be trying to go get with Miss Kathy. Miss Kathy belonged to me. Anyway, if you go see the play, you understand what I'm talking about. But first, man, let me go ahead and bring my guest on today, man. First, I want to bring on my cousin, my younger cousin, Brandon Reese, man. What's going on with you, man?
What's going on, cousin? Good morning. Happy Father's Day to you.
Happy Father's Day to you too, man. I'm glad to have you on here, man. Thank you for being a part of this show, man.
Oh, yeah.
And I know you're a young father, man. And tell me, what's that like, man?
It's tiresome, man. But look, it's a good, man. It's a blessing. It's a learning experience. But it takes energy. It'll take energy to raise kids, man. And, I think that was probably one of the things I underestimated the most. I have 2 kids under 2 years old. And you got to build a routine, man, to take care of 2 kids under 2 years old, man. And it's a blessing, though. I wouldn't change it for the world. I love it, man. But it keeps you busy, and it keeps your mind active, and it keeps you sharp. So I'm grateful, man. I'm real grateful.
Well, man, I'm proud of you, man. And you know, like I said, you younger than me, but I still look up to you, man. You've made some great decisions, man. I follow your lead, man, and you are a prime example, man, that when you do things God's way, things work out, man. Glad to have you on the show this morning, man.
Oh yeah, appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Next coming up, man, is my older cousin. You know what I'm saying? My dad kind of called him by a nickname, but I'm gonna call him G Majors. My cousin Greg, man, the writer of the Man Manual, the Spiritual Philosophy for Men, man. We bring him on in the house, man. Cuzzo, what's up, man? I got you on. I gotta mute that mic. How you doing this morning, man?
I'm doing great. Good morning, young kings. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to you too, man. Glad to have you back on the show. I'm honored. A lot of people were impacted by the show that we did. A lot of things that you spoke on in that book. A lot of things I wanted to highlight in those chapters of those books that I find pretty thought-provoking and triggering, man. So how have you been since the last time, man, we've spoken?
I'm still learning. Like you always say, still learning, always a student.
It's a learning process.
Other than that, I've been great. Just enjoying this journey of being in this position to make a difference.
Glad to have you on this morning, man. I'm looking forward to hearing your wisdom. Next up, man, on this panel, man, is a great brother that I met on Fanbase that I told a lot of people about. Heard this brother in the audio room, man, and you know, when you hear that intelligence and you hear that greatness, man, you know what I'm saying, you kind of attract, you kind of draw to it. It's kind of magnetic. And this brother, man, I specifically remember we was in a room full of people, and the brother was trying to say something of a serious matter. And somebody was joking in the room, and he was like, brother, are we going to be serious or are we going to joke? Right then and there, man, I knew that brother was an A-alike. And the simple fact that he's in the school systems, which is very critical. He's in the school systems to empower not only just the student, but the parent, the students, the parents, and teachers as well that are being bullied by administration boards, kids that may be bullied by other kids in the school, or parents that may not be getting the justice for their child. His name is Jerry L. Green, a Black student advocate. Let me go ahead and bring him in. Good morning. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, man. How you feeling? Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to you, man. I'm still learning, man. Glad to have you on the show, man. How you been?
I have no complaints, man. You know, we get up every day and just try to continue to protect the babies and serve.
Yeah. And how long have you been on that mission?
Almost for a little over 5 years. We started April 2017, and you know, the phone just continued to ring with families having problems, and we just respond and, like, say, do our best to help them out.
Man, I appreciate you greatly, man. And you're like a father to a lot of these youth that you are helping indirectly. And that's what the show is all about, man. Fatherhood and the essence of fatherhood. Last but not least, man, I'm going to bring in my very own father, who's the elder of this panel. And like I say, man, growing up, man, I couldn't have asked for a better father, man. I was truly blessed in this lifetime to have the father that I did. Growing up, I thought everybody had a father in the home. I truly did, and did not understand it until after I got older. So a lot of times, you know, as a youth, I did take that for granted. But I really honor my father for sticking in there, hanging in there. You know, even when my mother went down ill, most men would have left. Families would have fell apart. That was not our reality. And I'm forever grateful for my father. And I'm just grateful that this man has given me so much wisdom. And we argue about a lot of things, man. Sports, racism, we talk about a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, it always comes back to my father always knew what he was talking about, because he always be like, you think I don't know what I'm talking about? Nah, it ain't like that, man. Man, come on in here, man. Good morning, man. Do I got him on mute? Oh, yeah, I got him mute. Let me unmute your mic, dude. What's going on, man?
Everything is going on now. I'm so happy and proud to be part of the panel here today. And happy Father's Day to everyone, and especially you, my son, because I know what you went through and still going through things. But I'm proud to see you on the right road now.
Appreciate you, man. I like the outfit. Wakanda forever.
Yeah. Celebrating the Juneteenth. Looking at the history of that and talking about it, it was when they, come out and realized, some people just realized they was free, and they start putting on new clothes and different things as they celebrated being free. So this is my representation of that.
I appreciate you greatly. Yeah,
but I'm with it, because see that picture behind his head with that brother with the flag wrapped around his neck as a noose. So I take it very serious when we talk about our progress or we have progress, but we got a long way to go.
No doubt, without a doubt. I know, for the most part, I know most of the brothers on this panel, man, you know what I'm saying, of the spiritual nature. I want to go to Greg. Greg, I want to ask you a question. What is the importance of men understanding the spiritual realm of life to be fathers?
Understanding the spiritual realm is understanding the inside of us, our traumas. And if we don't deal with our traumas, then we'll continue to traumatize women and children because they're in a reflection of us. They're our reflection. And we need to understand our impact on them. You know, it's not them versus us. It's our creation that we're not getting along with.
Right. And me and you kind of came up the same way. When did you come into this realization?
When I probably transitioned to, I mean, it started a long time ago, I guess, as a teenager, but I just grew. And moving to Georgia in 91 probably ignited or expedited my, wanting to be more understanding of myself. I was getting away from something, but you can't get away from who you are or what you've been through unless you deal with it.
Yeah, that's a definite fact. Jerry, let me ask you a question. With you being in the school systems and active to this current day, can you tell the difference between children that do have a father in their life and children that don't have a father? Can you determine that?
Yes. And many times, me talking when I was doing more on site, dealing with school districts, because I would go into a school district wearing a bow tie, and I would explain to the young brother, I would say, watch when I go in here, just how they deal with me differently, just because how I'm dressed. So the first thing I need you to do is pull your pants up. And I said, understand how you dress many times is how people are going to see you and going to judge you. And we need everything going in your favor today. So I need you to act different and look different when we go in here. And as I advocate for you and your mom, you understand? He was like, yes. They'll be like, yes, sir. So the thing is it's there for our babies. They just need someone that they can trust in and know that's going to be loving and doing the right thing by them.
Basically, I got you. So basically, it takes the village to raise the children.
Correct.
Yeah. So let me ask you something. Going back to Brandon, who's the youngest, which you represent like the third generation that's represented on this panel. Becoming a father, how has that changed your perspective towards life?
In a lot of ways, man, because, for me, before fatherhood, life was really about me and my family, And now that I have kids, it becomes more about them and their legacy and my legacy and how well they're raised and their contribution to this earth. And the level of protection required and awareness required as a father to make sure that they're in the right situation as they grow up and as they go around this earth today has to be on point. The way you think, the way you go, even the decisions I make. There's times where recently, wife and I went on vacation and, we were talking about bungee jumping. And I'm like, look, I would love to bungee jump, but just right now in life, I got 2 kids I got to take care of. And I had to think about that. The single me would have hopped off that building with no questions asked. But with 2 kids, no, I gotta look. I was joking with a friend of mine. I said, look, when you got kids, there's certain ways you can't die. And I'm not gonna die jumping off a building.
That's awesome. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Wow, man. That's real, cuz. I appreciate that.
No,
Dad, I know Dad used to tell me them stories, man. What were some of the things you put your life in danger when we was born? Because I know a lot of them, bro.
Oh, yeah. First of all, I when I was young, my brother and I made a vow that we would be players for life. And I got married, still 52 years deep into that marriage. But I want to say, as I was raised by my dad, and who like I said, if I could be half the man he was, I think I would been a successful person as a father. But I also remember that I had his mentoring. He mentored the community kids. He mentored all the people in the church, everything. He was a pastor, by the way. But I remember what helped me change as an early father is when you were in school at Normandy. I'm not gonna call it. It's at the high school, and it was during the
You
time.
caught it. You good, man? I'm good.
It was during the time that they had the Bloods and Crips situation was becoming nationwide, and it started to hit there in that area. And you would come home, and I would have to see what's going on, and then you was telling me that they kind of trying to get you to join the Blood, I believe it was, or whatever. And I said, wait a minute, this can't happen, So I taught, as a father, you try to teach your kids things that as far as life, I mean, like I say, don't, if you're going to if somebody's trying to hurt you, you don't have to, you got to defend yourself. You had to be sure you understand how and when to defend yourself and all those kind of things. I didn't have a daughter, so I had all boys, but I got involved at Normandy as a substitute teacher. And that way I was trying to get close to see what was going on with the young men and all the kids and what the environment was like. And that's what put me out there as far as starting to get my fatherhood in my mind. I had to be protected. I had to be providing. I had to do all of those things, teach. I had to teach you the best I could. A lot of times, like you said, we didn't always see eye to eye. You was young. You was all, you was pretty knuckleheady. So I had to kind of, and I had three of you all.
Him?
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I got involved. And if you don't, you have to have your children's back. But the main thing about that is they have to know you got their back. When something is going wrong, they look for support. The kid gonna run out and play and do whatever he want to do. But when danger comes, he's looking for his refuge. He's looking for that place that he knows he can go for support, help, or an additional defenses. But anyway, that kid has to know that I told y'all a lot of times that if somebody wants you to do something, you can run it by me. Don't ever be scared to say something, to tell your parents things that they need to know, because they can help guide you. But anyway.
That's what's up. Greg, let me ask you a question. You grew up in St. Louis like we did too. Was there any experience that you had as a youth that you said to yourself, if I ever became a father, I will make sure that my child never ends up in this position, or I would teach them about the danger of this?
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't say danger, but I wanted to be a father before I wanted, most people want to be a fireman and all of this. For some reason, I grew up as an only child, so I wanted to be a father more than anything. And the reason I wanted to be a father, for one, is the loneliness, but also to create a better me. I had the opportunity to create a better me, and I didn't want that child or my children to grow up knowing what it felt like to not have a father. So I vowed to always be there for my kids. And, it's still challenges, with that, even with that vow.
Indeed. Jerry, what are some of the greatest challenges that you face as a young father coming up?
Well, on March 31st, 91, that was the same day as the Rodney King beating. And my daughter, she was just turned 3 earlier that month, March 3rd. And she was in a car accident with her mother. Her mother was killed. Oh. And so she was in North Carolina. I was in California. So going to North Carolina, getting her, then bringing her to California. And she had 4 brain surgeries, had to teach her how to walk again and go through all these things. And praise God, 100% recovery today. But the thing is that when she went to school, the first day, and they told me at therapy, they said, when she get in a safe environment, you don't know how she's going to react, because she'd been going through place to place, different hospitals. So she had to keep her guard up as a young child. So she goes to school, and the first day of school, she pee on herself. And I picked her up and I said, "You peed on yourself?" She said, Daddy, teacher didn't let me use the bathroom. I said, okay. I said, I'm gonna go talk to the teacher. And then she knew she had a pit bull because every time something would happen, she would say, "Daddy, you're gonna go talk to the teacher? Like sick him, like go get him." So she knew early how
Right.
to try to pull that string, but she knew I was a protector for her when she was going through something at school, So yeah, that was an early challenge for me.
Indeed. So I want to get into something that might be a little sensitive, some because I know there's this Father's Day, and I know a few on the panel's father are no longer here with us. I want to start with Cuz. I'm gonna go with Brandon. Tell us some of the best things about Unc, the jewels that he left with you, and things that you'll carry on as far as and how does that impact you to this day?
Yeah, man. I lost what pops. I think it was about 3, 4 years ago now, right before the
Mm,
pandemic. Um, I would tell you that you could never be prepared for that moment because had you told me the day before or the week before or the month before that my pops was going to be gone on the day he left this earth, I'd be like, nah, he ain't going to be here. Just from what it taught me, it just taught me, man, you can't take life for granted, man. And you gotta make sure you communicate and tell the people around you that you love them, that you care for them. And I know people say it as cliche, like you got to treat every conversation like your last. But in reality, man, I guess as we mature in life, like you just got to make sure when you get off that phone, ain't no bad blood in your heart, that you're good, and that if that person left the earth tomorrow, that you could feel good about your relationship and your last conversation or conversations that you had with that person. And I feel good about that. Of course, I wish I could talk to my dad a million more times at this point, but that situation is gone. But what I will tell you is that I felt like my father prepared me for life. And I think that was probably the most critical thing about it for me is that when my father left the earth, I didn't feel like I didn't get anything from him. He gave me
mm,
what he could give me. And the things that he couldn't give me, he put me in a position to get those things.
wow.
So from a foundational standpoint, he taught me. He taught me sacrifice. He taught me protection. He taught me how to take care of my family, how to create and have a family, how to have work ethic, because that's what he knew. The other things around financial literacy and health and just being a productive investor or entrepreneur, he didn't know those things to that degree, but he put me in a position to where I could go to college and get that education, and where I couldn't get it at college, he gave me the mindset to know I could go get it other places outside of a college institution. So for that, I'm grateful because, and I appreciate that. And I pray the same thing for me and my kids, that when I leave this earth, my kids can say that my dad gave me everything that he had to give me. And the things that he couldn't give me, he put me in a position to go and get on my own.
Cuz that's heavy.
It's
I
powerful.
thank you for that piece. And you know what? On the day of the, man, I'm a wreck, man, when, we lose family members. I can't hold it together because all I could do is sit and think about the good times. The way you spoke, man, I don't know if I could have been that strong, man. I really commend you, man. You stood up there like a grown man and you spoke well at the homegoing, man. But, the wisdom is definitely in you. Me and you talk all the time, man. Like, again, I look up to you, man. I look up to you, man. You shining, man. I'm
Likewise.
proud of you.
Likewise.
Jerry, do you still have your father?
No, actually, my father passed when I was 5. So he was 57 when I was born, died at 62. And the interesting thing now is this year I'll be 57.
Mm,
So I think and say, man, if having a kid at 57, that's really something. But
yeah.
what he was a laborer, even at 50s and 60s. So I look back and think about again him going and doing that manual labor and the strength he had to have still in his 50s and 60s to do that work. So I took that
Wow.
from him. And again, I would always be with him as a young boy and things like that. So yeah, I can lean on what I did get from him early on in my life that carried me to today.
Yeah. Dad, you want to speak on Grandpa?
Oh,
I remember that day
uh,
you picked me up from high school. But
yeah,
speak on the greatness of Grandpa.
yeah. I'm not gonna take long, but I could go forever on my dad. As we said before, when I went to the school to get involved is because of the image and the way I saw him. And as Jerry had said about being protected, I felt protected. My dad always had my back, but also early on I didn't realize, like you said earlier, I thought everybody was being raised like I was in the community. Now, have to remember, I'm back from before segregation. I'm part of desegregation. So when we start going to school with the whites, we had fights and all these different things. But anytime a person in administration would go off or do something, not just to dad, my father's, us, he would also be an advocate and defender for all the young Black kids in the community. Now, he was a community advocate. He ran for councilman. He did all those things. And I didn't realize a lot of things that he was doing for other people until I got a little older. People may say, "Oh man, I love your dad, man. Your dad got me out of jail." And I know my dad got a guy out of jail that was in jail for murder. Kept me from going to jail. And one instance that I will never forget, when I first started to realize how protective and how much he had my back, was and like I say, back in those days, we didn't have all the technology and the internet and stuff like that, where you could hear and see things instantly, what's going on in Russia, for instance. But back then, we had to dial phones and all that stuff. But anyway, all our TVs were shows were just white shows, and if it was anything Black, there was a white folks with black face. Mm-hmm. So I saw a friend of mine. I mean, I'm sorry, not a friend, but a person on TV. The Ku Klux Klan had a TV show. So I got to school and found out that this white boy, daddy, was one of those people, and I got mad enough, and I said, I'm gonna pick a fight with him. I picked a fight with him, jumped on him, beat him down 2 flights of steps. I got kicked out of school. The next day, Dad took me back, and we had a principal named Nybeck, old bald-headed white man, and Dad took me back to get me back in school. Now, I was surprised, a minister. My dad was a pastor, I said, but he had his gun. He had his gun. He put it out. But and when I left out of that office, I went back to class. It's not funny to me. I know what happened. Yeah. And then also was one time that I was wanted falsely, and he went in the police station, him and my brother. But Dad meant a lot to me. He still does.
Amen.
Yeah. My wife said to me the other day, she said, "You're a real man." I said, "Lord have mercy." My dad was a real man. Now, you can take and define it any way you want to. But when my wife said that to me, I was so taken back. But anyway, y'all have to forgive me, but that means a lot to me.
Amen.
Yeah.
I try to be, Daddy was. I try to be in the community. I try to be there for loved ones. So, yeah, Daddy meant a lot to me. And there's so much more I can tell you about my dad, so I'm going to just leave it at that.
You good. Have your moment, man. I understand. And I knew I don't know why, Dad, I knew that was heavy on your heart. I don't know why, but I felt it. But have your moment, because you deserve it. And, you impacted a lot of people's lives. And I know you love unconditionally, even those with those that don't love you back. So I tell people all the time, if there's anybody that made me really understand the reality of God being real, it's you, and through your actions and everything that you've always done. I've seen it in you. You can't lie to your children. And you've always kept it 100, Dad, and I've always admired you and loved you for that. Yeah. Greg, you mentioned something one time we was on the show. When we did the show, you mentioned how being taken away from Uncle Doc impacted you. How did that it impacted you. But the question is, because your writing is about solutions. Mm-hmm. How do we mend these broken relationships between men and their children?
What I offer or suggest is for us to get to know our fathers, if we still have that opportunity. And I suggest that we humble ourselves like we're supposed to be, even though we may not feel he deserved it, but we don't know what he went through. So in order for us to get past our traumas, we got to dig into some roots. You got to get to the root of things, because we're just mimicking what created us. So we have to get into what created us, where we come from, our history, our past, our uncles, people that aren't here anymore. They can tell us stories. We can't get away from our family. It does take a village to raise a child. And it's not just saying all hands on deck. That village is the roots also. Our young kids have to be connected to their grandparents. That's wisdom that you can't get anywhere else.
Right.
And also
go ahead.
Our elders have to be connected to the grandkids too, because that keeps them young and sharp. So that's the village right there. And while we're parenting in the middle, trying to figure it out, our kids are getting that wise wisdom, and grandparents are staying young. So it works, together like that. But yeah, Doc was my God. When I was trying to figure out who God was, I just pinned it on him. And to this day, I feel like I did the right thing.
Without a doubt. Well, let me ask you this before I move on. In your own personal situations, and I know it may not have always been good with your biological father, whatever, but what are some of the good things you could say that you've taken from him, if there are any? Biological?
I would say that would be where my trauma came from. So understanding how to deal with our trauma is really what makes us superpower, it gives us superpowers. And if we don't deal with them, then it destroys us, and we destroy other people because we ain't dealt with that trauma yet. But dealing with that trauma, we wouldn't be as strong as we are, or we not having those traumas. So I almost believe that having a little trauma gives us, a little bit more if we can figure it out, motivation or determination, because we don't want to, we don't want anybody else to go through what we went through. So we're testimonies based on our trauma.
Indeed.
So he was a fighter. He was one of those, you can't do it to make you do it, and I didn't realize that as a child. My father's telling me I can't and I won't be anything, which made me, more determined to do something. But then on the other hand, I had Doc, so, I was able to deal with the trauma, but I still had Doc. Right. So it was an interesting position.
Yeah, I didn't even think of it like that. I know, Brandon, you spoke earlier about the greatness of Uncle, what he prepared you for when he was no longer here. Moving into this new world that we're coming in, like Dad said, back in his time, they didn't have internet, cell phone technology. Yeah. Moving into this new world with AI, technology, the speed of life, it just seems like humanity is declining. Even as a young father, what are some of your concerns and some of the things that you're trying to do that you feel like you and the wife have to do to prepare your children for this new and coming world?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I think one of the risks of AI and technology, and it's wonderful and it's going to change the world. But I think the power of fatherhood is presence, being physically there. And sometimes with the technology, it might give us the impression that we could be more places and leverage technology to be in our kids' lives. And that's something we just got to make sure we don't take advantage of too much, right? I think it's good in moments, but like we can't use it as a everyday presence to say, look, I'll Skype you or I'll be on iPhone with you.
Right. Wow, that's a good point.
Just going back to your question around, I guess how we prepare. I mean, I think you gotta take the good with the bad, man. I think technology is amazing, but I think you just gotta leverage technology to ensure it's not corrupting your kids and to make sure that it is it is adding to their development in a way, or it's doubling down on the development that you're already giving them and the education and everything that you're putting in them already. But, you know, for us personally, like we try to monitor just a lot of the excessive things that's already on TV, right? Because it'll get in their head and they'll start programming it. You know, even language, man. I said a cuss word the other day, and Sydney, 2 years old, walking around just cussing for 2 days straight. and
Wow.
and I had to learn, like, you got to be very mindful on what they see and what they hear.
Yes.
So I take that to just say, look, at the end of the day, it's just about, as parents, being mindful of the imagery that your kids see on a regular basis, because whether we believe it or not, it will impact them in some way. And then you have to fight 10 times harder to try to pull out that negativity or that spirit out of them that you allowed to get in them by just overly exposing them to unnecessary technology.
You know, it's funny you mentioned about how kids can sponge parents, man. Just real quick story, man. Years ago, we used to attend Southern Missionary Baptist Church. No, it was Reverend Lucas's church. And, you know, me and Quentin, man, we used to ride to church early in the morning, man. I used to let him listen to Ludacris. He used to like Ludacris. He was like 2 or 3 years old. So, you know, he had that song called Use a Hole. You know what I'm saying? So he used to love that song. So we got in church, man. And, you know, they about to do altar call, man, and they call people up to the front. Now, Dad, this was when they was in the bowling alley. We was at the basement, and everybody, the pastor was praying, and all of a sudden, you know, Quentin got hype, and all of a sudden, while I was quiet praying, here you go, use a hall. He didn't know no better. He just saw everybody looking at me like, oh, my God. You know, that's one of the moments where you don't make no eye contact. You just kind of look like he got it from Deacon. He got it from Deacon Thames. Yeah, so I know how it can be with kids, man. But Jerry, directing this question towards you, since we see, like in Georgia, they just put into law, they put into legislation in the school systems, they don't want to use the word diversity. They don't want to use the word equity. And they're with this woke movement agenda that they have, it's definitely an attack on censorship of Black voices. However, we know the majority of our community leaders are men. What can fathers do? Because you're in the school system, and I'm sure you're seeing the effects of AI in the school systems. What can fathers do to help counter the oncoming onslaught of censorship, of teaching our kids the consciousness of themselves, their history? You know, they took out critical race theory, which we should be teaching them anyway. What can you advise for young fathers to do moving forward into this new society?
I think what Brandon said is be there. Because when you're there, then you're monitoring what's going on. That's either in the household or at school, is to sign up and be on campus to change the environment. Because that's very key. Because what happens is, if you have 12 parents and then they go out and recruit 1 or 2 other parents each, and each one spend an average of 12 days a year on campus, it changes the environment. Because now they know they have someone there they can go to if they have a problem. And with that, you're able to, if a problem comes up, to take care of it then, so kids don't continue to have to process it throughout the day. You can just address the problem and be done with it. Just like Brandon said, when he heard that with his baby, he knew at that point he had to address it and clean it up, so then he can get that out that baby system.
Indeed. Dad, you know, me and you just talked this as often as yesterday, as recent as yesterday, on this situation. Now, I know you come from an era where parenting was totally different. Like in our day, you know, we got our butt whooped. You know what I mean? Nowadays, they have laws where a child can actually call the authorities on the parent, or kids are actually bucking against the parents. What is like the greatest contrast you've seen in fatherhood from your era to today?
My perspective is always coming from a spiritual perspective.
Indeed.
Like Greg talks. Because, you know, I talked about my dad. He was my earthly father. As he left off the scene, I began to appreciate and look to what he was looking at. He was led by his heavenly father. And I saw the heavenly father much better and clearer. Not to say that dad had to die for me to see that, But as I grew as a young man and with a family, and in those days, you say I got, whooped too, and we did disobedient and everything like that. But the kids, charity starts at home and spreads abroad. So without recognition, we can't do no resolutions. So if we recognize that our kids will do that, you should recognize the sooner you can't say, well, I'll wait till my child is a certain age and I will, address this, address that. When they're young, you have to find a way to be able to address the things that are in front of them. You can kind of visualize spiritually the future based on the things that are going on today. They're all fulfillment of scriptures, and that's my position. So, but I don't condemn anybody. But if you don't believe in God, the bottom principles are love, hate, and just complete obedience. And when you want your child when your child is obedient, it makes you so much joyful. If they want a car, you might buy them an extra pair of tires or something. Ain't no telling. You go the extra mile when they're obedient. As we obey God, that's the principle and the pattern that I use to expect from my children. It's the same parallel. Because without what is the thing old saying is there's no progress without change, but all change is not progress. If you look at our situation as Black folks and our culture, we have primarily taken on the ways of the oppressor in
Oh,
general.
without a doubt.
So if we say, well, hey, that some changes don't have it. How many Blacks? Because when I went first come, like I said, I was part of desegregation. It was all Black school, but we were very happy in the community. Kids playing with each other. We wasn't thinking about all this racism and stuff like that because it was just not our concern. It didn't come apparent until we start mingling together. So we used to, cause like I say, we didn't have distractions like the kids had today, the computers. When my grandkids come over here and they want to sit down and look at the phone, I said, no, turn that thing off. When I'm talking to you, you don't look at that phone. You look at me, you put your eyes on me, eye to eye, and we talk. And then I will question them to be sure they are understanding. And if I say they come home and I say, well, what'd you learn at school? I don't have kids in the house like that. Well, but I do. Well, when I do, I will question on what's going on at school. Now, as far as getting into the race stuff like that, it's kind of hard for me to do it like I would like to do it. With just flat out say, hey, this and that, this and that, another. No, but you have to have a guide, which is a spiritual guide, how to help nurture the kids today to be strong of character, be obedient, respect your people of authority, but everybody in authority it don't honestly deserve it. So that's when you have to take over as a parent and carrying on. So if I tell you, a lot of times I say, well, when the police pull you over, you don't say, what you pull me over for? But that tone is bad. Now you might say, what did you pull me over for, sir? But then he comes back at you, a license and registration. He don't even address your questions, So he wants to kind of egg you, and then you turn and go into a different mindset yourself, and then next thing you know, you out there dead. So that's a situation that is hard for a parent or anybody to just fathom that your child is dead just for asking a question. But generally, that's why they do that. Plus racism, all that kind of stuff. But like I said, if there's no way that we have to help the community, because it's going to take a village. A lot of times I got whooped by other people and other fathers in the neighborhood. When I was coaching, I told the kids, I said, anytime you have a problem, whatever. I've had kids call me late at night. I had to go out and help fix a tire. And they had a dad at home. But they confided in me because they felt that I was true to my word. And I was always true to my word. And that's when I got involved in the school system to kind of help whatever I can make a change on. It's rough, but in all sense, it's gonna work out for our kids. And I believe that from the bottom of my heart. although they're going to have some challenges, but they will be able to work through.
Indeed, indeed. Well, man, I'm gonna get ready to bring the show to a close, man. Today's show, man, has been very impacting. It's been powerful. It's been very uplifting, and it's been solutionary. I'm also just grateful for each and every one of you taking time out of your day and this morning. I know your families are waiting for you, brunch, dinner, breakfast, whatever you want to call it. But I just thank y'all for coming on this platform. We're going to go around, man. We're going to have a last word, man, and then we're going to get ready to wrap the show up today, man, so we can get on with our Father's Day, because I think my baby want to take me to breakfast this morning. I'm not sure. She called me this morning, man. Peaches, she's something else, man. Peaches, something else. So, Brandon, we're going to start with you, man. You know what I'm saying? Give us your departing words.
Hey, man, I just want to end by saying, one, I appreciate you for the invite to be on the platform this morning.
Thank you.
It definitely uplifted my spirit and my soul. I woke up tired this morning, and you start like, oh, man, you got stuff to do. But I'm glad I hopped on, man, and I appreciate the invite. I appreciate you, man, and your fatherhood, man. I've learned a lot from you. Just your consistency, man, and just your love that you show. You always show up, man, when the kids got stuff going on, whether it's a family event or whatever, man. I can always count on you, man. Me and the wife talk about it all the time, man. You're going to always show up and be there about love, man, and show up with a genuine mindset, a genuine attitude. And I appreciate you for that. And then too, man, look, man, I remember growing up, man, in all the basketball games, and we were back in that big blue van that you had. I don't even know the name of it, man. That was the biggest car I ever been in. It felt like a bus. Had a TV, a table in the back, man, eating dinner. Man, I don't know, man, that was the coldest van before they made these new Sprinter vans. That was the coldest van I had ever been in. But, Unc, I appreciate you, man, just for the love you show, man, how you take care of moms, man, since Pop's been gone, man. I know you stepped up in a lot of ways, and I truly appreciate you for that. And just all the childhood memories, man, for me and Alex used to cut up, and all the whoopings he got that you gave him that I probably should have got a little piece of. And I appreciate him because he sacrificed that whooping for me. I went home. I'll never forget one time we were late coming back home. We were supposed to go to the movies, and Unc was like, "Hey, when Brandon leaves, I'm gonna whoop your butt." And I'm like, "I appreciate you doing it when I leave, because I don't want to be here for it." But no, Unc, I truly appreciate you and love you, man. And thanks a lot for everything you do.
Oh man. Thank you, Brandon. You the spark of the show, boy. I swear, man. Greg, it's on you, cuz.
Okay, I would say my purpose of what I'm driving towards doing is ending single parenting. Fathers, we are the missing link between women, God, and children. So yes, we hold more power than society tells us we do. We know that. But sometimes women, they were programmed to not look at us, or they were programmed to look at us the way that they do. But we are that missing link between them, God, and the children. And give people their flowers while they can enjoy them. So,
and the name of your book again?
The Manual of Man. It is spiritual philosophy, and yes, it empowers men. It raises our vibrational level, our consciousness, our awareness. So I'm proud of it. Thank you guys for having me, cuz I appreciate the show, the panel. I'm honored to be amongst God Kings.
Yes.
Appreciate you guys. Everything you do. It is definitely necessary and needed.
I appreciate you for being a problem solver and solutionary. And that book, man, I've been dipping in them chapters, man. Because you're a great writer. You're on point. We're going to discuss some of the things I've been reading, so, you got some pretty interesting topics, especially the one about the erectile dysfunction at 2 years old. That was really unique, but I appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Jerry.
I would just say, just be there as much as you can for your kids.
Yes.
That's it.
And Jerry is part of the BSA, Black Student Advocate, man. You can always look them up, man. If you have any issues going on in the school systems, what's going on with it? There it is. That's the number that you can contact them. They also have the website that's also pinned as well, too. So make sure if you have any situation going on in the school system, because to me, the school systems, when it comes to our children, are the end all be all. Jerry, I thank you for coming on the show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
and I will be having you back on as well.
Thank you.
Dad, it's on you, man. Take us on out, man.
Oh, well, yes. I would like to say good job, and I really appreciate it hearing Brandon and Greg and you as well, Jerry.
Thank
And I
you,
really appreciate it, and I really am excited about the student advocacy that you are working on and dealing with. I'm hoping it can go all over the nation because as men step up and represent, and the kids see that not only our own children, other children are inspired by people standing up, know that they have their back. And that's a confident thing, because the biggest thing challenge for most kids today and back in our day is peer pressure. Everybody wants to kind of submit or give in to what other kids are doing. And then something it's hard to resist. Like I was talking about, you was being almost forced to be a blood back in the day, and I had to come out and help you. And even at that, you just got to keep it real with your kids, because, like you say, Brandon, they see what you do, and you don't even think that you don't know. They will represent you regardless, because they're doing it because they think it's right because you did it. So as we walk circumspectly in front of our kids, then they will do the same. And then in closing, I want to say that I always get emotional when I talk about my dad, because he meant so much to me. But I want to give a plug to my mother.
That's your phone, man?
Yeah, it is my phone. I'm sorry.
That's definitely a LG.
Huh?
That's definitely a LG. I know that ringtone. That man just dated himself. He got the last LG in America.
Yeah. And as a good woman, okay. I'm talking from a marriage perspective. Now we do know that we have women that are single parents, and they have to be. They can't be a man, but they can get a mentor, and a lot of them do get mentors to help with their sons and daughters. As we talk about our kids, we like to say, Jerry was talking about his daughter, that really got to me. We have to just keep on walking by faith and let God lead you. But everybody don't want to believe in God, and sometimes your kids will grow up and they'll go their own way. I never forced you to do anything that I thought you should do, or I wouldn't try to live my life through you, son. I see now that, a lot of times, like you say, we always argue, we have our differences, but we still come together in love. And that's the bottom line. Love, what do they say? Charity starts at home and spreads abroad, which is love. Love starts at home and spreads abroad. The more love you show, the more love is going to come back. So we thank God for you. And I think you're doing a beautiful job with working with your podcast. I can see some of the changes that as you have talked and did your research and study. I know you've always done your research on any position you've taken. So we thank God for you. And I love all you guys. And we pray that God will bless your day, not only the day, but Father's Day, true fathers. And like I said, my wife said, real men. We should try to be the definition of real men. Be there and live.
Appreciate you. Happy Father's Day. Thank you for joining in. See
Happy
you next
Father's
time.
Day, everyone.
Happy God.